Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome back to another episode of the Court Storm College Hoops Talk podcast, which you'll find right here on the Court Storm Media Network. I'm your host, Kanaye, and the college basketball season may be over, but the transfer portal is underway, and we have our first big commitment of this offseason recruiting cycle in the transfer portal, that being Miles Byrd announcing his commitment to go play for first-year head coach Brian Hodgson and the Providence Friar basketball program. Obviously, Brian Hodgson just took the job just several weeks back now in Friartown to become the next Friar head coach. And I think this is a great get for that program. This is a guy who is one of the more elite perimeter defenders that you'll find across college basketball. He's 6'6", has the long wingspan, and can stay in front of guys really, really well, as we saw while he took home Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year this past season. Now, I do believe that Miles Byrd is commanding $2 million minimum in terms of what his NIL deal will look like this upcoming season. That's in accordance with what we're seeing some of the star wings in this offseason transfer portal cycle command in terms of how much they'll make. Right now, we're seeing obviously a large emphasis placed on getting the top point guards and the top bigs that you'll find across the transfer portal right now. The top bigs like a Flory Badungo, per se, is probably going to see somewhere in the realm of $4 to $5 million. Someone like a Rob Wright, one of the better point guards you'll find in this offseason transfer portal, is probably going to see somewhere close to 3 to 4.5 mil. So it makes sense. We've obviously seen the importance of having lengthier, larger wings, and Miles Byrd is that, of course. So I can understand why Providence and Brian Hodgson decided to go out and make a big home run swing first move to to kick off this transfer portal cycle this offseason. So when you consider the circumstances Providence finds themselves in, they are definitely the beneficiary of having one of the top budgets of any team in the Big East. The Big East has the best revenue share deal that you'll find across any Power 5 conference in college basketball. And when you consider what we've heard in terms of what Providence's budget is going to look like, I've heard 11 million. I've also heard some murmurs of 20 million. I want to push back on 20 million. However, I would not be surprised if that is the true number, because we all know how passionate that fan base is. We all know how passionate the alumni network is at Providence. So they want to get back to winning. They obviously had the money to spend, and they put together what I thought was a very talented roster going into this past season. However, they somehow just were not able to find a way to make it work under the last year of Kim English at the helm, and they missed the NCAA tournament for what I believe was the third year in a row. So this is a good move to get back towards winning. I do kind of want to throw out a word of caution, though. Despite Miles Byrd being one of the better perimeter defenders that you'll find across the country, he does have some offensive faults. He is not the best shooter. We see time and time again people in the Mountain, or I should say other teams in the Mountain West, go under on ball screens when defending Miles. He's a career 30% shooter from beyond the arc. When you're paying a guy $2 million, you expect him to be able to make the open threes. So that's definitely a place of emphasis that Miles is going to have to work on this offseason. I do think that he is a really good downhill driver. He can get to the cup. He can obviously elevate, throw down some dunks, and finish over taller defenders. And I do think that while he didn't have the largest scoring totals this past year with San Diego State, never really has. He averaged 10 points per game this past year. I do think a lot of that is attributed to San Diego State's style of play. They are very slow. They are very methodical. They will drain the entire shot clock if they have to in order to get the best shot possible in any given possession. Now, Brian Hodgson is really the complete opposite. He likes to get up and down the floor. That's what we saw with USF this past season, in the AAC under Brian Hodgson. Miles Byrd is going to have ample opportunities to be able to get up and down the floor, get active in transition, obviously get some easy points on layups going to the rim, some dunks in transition too. And I do think that he fits what Providence is trying to build under Brian Hodgson. Brian Hodgson is obviously trying to build some culture here. And when you're trying to do that, you need to get players that aren't going to take plays off. They play hard, they play tough, and that is what you're getting with Miles Byrd. And on top of that, you're also getting some championship pedigree. Miles Byrd played for a national championship in 2023, where they coincidentally played against the Connecticut Huskies here as the UConn guy on this podcast. But obviously, he's coming from a lot of winning that San Diego State did in the Mountain West. They were competitive every single year he was there. Did underperform my preseason expectations that I had for SDSU this year. However, they were still, towards the top of that league this past season. And I am really curious to see how he, one, handles the jump to the Power 5 level. And two, this is a kid who's really stayed close to home his entire life. He's from the West Coast. He obviously stayed close to home and played at SDSU. And now he's going to the complete other side of the country for the first time in his life. So I'm curious how he handles both those two things. We've seen other times where that just doesn't work out. But I think Miles Byrd's got the right head on his shoulders to be able to really mitigate some of those growing pains that we might see from him jumping up to the Power 5 level and being so far away from where he's used to. everything I've heard about Miles Byrd in terms of a locker room presence and being a leader, I've only heard good things. We've seen him step up in leadership roles every single year he was at SDSU. When you consider the vets that they lost every year while he was with that program, Providence is not bringing him in to be the go-to guy. They still have Ryan Milo, who's a holdover from the Kim English tenure in Providence, and they're more than likely going to be getting other guys in the portal. Wes Enos is in the transfer portal with the do not contact tag. More than likely, that leads you to infer that he will be joining his head coach from USF and Brian Hodgson and playing for the Friars this upcoming season. So I think if he's going to be a piece, Miles Byrd is going to play his role well. I think Brian Hodgson is going to be able to get the best out of him. I think he's going to be able to push him, and I think these personalities go together really, really well and should lead to what hopefully, if you're a Providence Fire fan, is a top 3, top 4 finish in the Big East. And obviously this is the first big transfer portal announcement we've gotten out of the Big East. And this, again, should work to hopefully improve the competitiveness of the league top to bottom. I want to see the Big East get back to being a 4 or 5, maybe even 6-bid league year in and year out, going to every NCAA tournament field. So big move here for the Providence Fire basketball program. I think this is a home run hit as your first transfer portal landing of this offseason. And again, you put the right pieces around him. I think Providence should be really, really good. And Miles Byrd, he's going to give the other guards in the Big East hell. Like I mentioned earlier in this episode, he is a point of attack guy that can take the best offensive perimeter player on any team on any given night. And I think, Brian Hodgson is going to be able to push him, get the best out of him. I think if you're Providence, you probably want to look to see him increase his scoring totals to being a 14, maybe 13 point per game guy. Can he do that? I think he can, but he's got to knock down the open threes. And obviously, when you consider he is making the jump up to the Power 5 level now this upcoming season, that's not always the easiest thing to do. So overall, I think this is a great first landing in the transfer portal out of the Big East and in Providence. And to go with what I thought was a home run hire in Brian Hodgson, I think Providence should be trending back upwards into being a competitive program once again in the Big East, as they should be. So that's going to take care of everything for me, giving my thoughts on Providence being able to land Miles Byrd out of the transfer portal. If you stuck around to the end, as always, just engage with the content on the channel in any way you can. And until the next episode, I'll see you all next time.